I think the website I was looking at must be then your personal website, because it didn't really say anything about collaboration, but there was this one, I mean, maybe a lot of the work there is still collaboration. I couldn't really tell, but there was this one work that I found particularly beautiful, where you worked with foil on the window that then the light in Morse code
Mm-hmm.
was creating a kind of poetry or a text on the walls of an inside house. I
Yeah,
mean,
that is actually, yeah. Um, yes, that is actually, I was done in grad school in California. I was doing my first year in grad school.
all right. Well,
Yeah.
I really loved it, because it felt like I was almost like, please do me one too. Send me a message too. Like I want to. It's almost like a way of communicating now that we're in these enclosed spaces. You know, it
Mm,
also almost felt like writing someone a letter, but then a message or a letter that only comes out when the sun comes out, which is kind of the nicest moment of the day here in this
mhm,
gray reality. And I
mhm.
just felt like it's almost like a way of communicating in the nicest light of the day, and then suddenly a message for you kind of appears in your space. That, I mean, my point of view, I've been feeling a little bit living in captivity, kind of in a space, because I never used to spend so much time in one space. And I almost felt like it was really a beautiful way of communicating with someone who's also kind of stuck in a space, or that like there would be some like that.
Mm, mm. Wow, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's so nice to hear that a work that was done a long time ago, almost 20 years ago or
Wow.
more. Goodness, that still can have a resonate for a viewer, and especially in documentation. That's something that's really hard sometimes with an installation that's site specific, and to be able to speak back into the house, into a space, as if there's a conversation with a little bit of my intervention of trying to. I really have to be honest. I don't remember what it was, but I think it was a lot about thinking about the American dream and whether or not I can enter it. I have access to that.
Yeah, because it said something like, can I the Morse said something like, can I enter your dream?
That's true. That's true. See, wow, yeah. See, yes, true. I think that's the name. It might be uh, part of the piece. Yeah, and that's the Morse code. So the light just turned on and off, and it's kind of futile, right? Because in Morse codes, and it's a garden light, so hardly would be seen from above, um, and maybe for passerby they would see it. So there's this kind of futility that I kind of find really interesting in terms of also the kind of the notion of the American dream.
Yeah. Well, there's like, I feel the more you speak about it, the more it clears becomes to me why I relate so much to it somehow, or why it touches me so much, because
Mm.
it's all these different layers. Like, it's me personally, maybe for the first time experiencing being in an enclosed space for a long period of time, which is an experience I haven't had in many, many, many years, and that I feel is starting to weigh on my creativity, and also the needing of the light. I mean, working with photography, light is one of your tools, right? It's like
Mm.
the Greek the Greek word derives from writing with light, so it's literally that. And then you say light as a companion, and I mean, where we've spent this winter. I mean, the advantage of COVID was actually seeing the seasons pass by, and actually seeing the moonlight fall through the window, and seeing,
Mm.
time change. Like you say, light becomes like a time indicator. But also in the winter we have in Belgium, sunlight is really precious. Like, it's so
Mhm.
precious. Like, there's sometimes so little of it for days, for weeks.
Yeah.
Um, And then there's this idea of kind of having a conversation, which and the maybe the glitches in communication that we were talking about before, where I was thinking of these images, the screenshots of like when connection breaks, and you were thinking about different way of communicating through sending things, written code languages, things that arrive or not arrive, the kind of this miscommunication. And then there's this layer of where you say the dream or the American dream, which for me, obviously, from this perspective also relates to migration and dreaming of a place that you then go to, entering a new place, entering a new home, or finding a new home. And that's kind of what we've been trying to do in Belgium, but in difficult circumstances and under this pressure of the paperwork for my boyfriend. That's also why I had to move back to Belgium, because we're trying to get him papers so we can just live together. And that's why I almost felt like when I looked at that project, maybe somehow it, I could read a little bit of the things you said in it, and I'm almost like, please write me a message like that too, to enter our home through the tiny sun of ray of light that might enter, reflecting on this idea of both of us being kind of held captive also by the system and by bureaucracy, and not really having the freedom to leave that space, because my boyfriend officially cannot leave Belgium, so he also has not been able to go to his family no matter what happened the past year. And so I don't know, all of that kind of spoke to me.
Thank you. I mean, I think a lot about the being American, and even I think even for Americans, if they are American citizen, the notion of the American dream and having access, having the freedom, right? That kind of perfect way of life, or this notion of what is of the life that you should aim to have, right? All of that, who has access to it? And I'm thinking a lot about that during this past week, actually, because of the violence against Asian American, and it just kind of re-triggering memories of traumas, of also verbal abuses that we Asian American have gone through, and myself, and it's kind of funny that you brought this piece up, because I forgotten about this work in a way, and it was made in a different time, that I think that it's more, but it's always a questions, right? Who has access to something like your boyfriend? You cannot go somewhere. You cannot. There's always this can't not, right? There's always this barrier of and as artists, then how do we survive, right? And during this time, I think a lot about that. How do we, what are the strategies that I learn as an artist can help me survive during this time? And it's interesting. I don't know about you, but I think it's, for me, I learn about making things. I learn about doing things for myself so that I can make art. But I also know that because of art making, that I can now know how to use a drill. I knew to use a table saw, and I have certain skill set. And then, as you said, I learned how to use the video camera, right? And learn about light, and as that's part of our tools kit. But then how do we expand our toolkits to be the kind of survival for every day too? And that's kind of symbiosis relationship that I think that's so is so important, that that for me, they are not separate.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with you that they're inseparable. And for me, it manifests a lot in the things I surround myself with, or the colors I surround myself with. It's very strongly connected to the colors in my photography. or I have a very specific, I mean, I don't control it as much in my photography because I mostly work from reality. So I don't control it as much because I also go with the flow, but I have a very specific color palette. And there's also colors that don't exist in my personal space, kind of. It's maybe somehow it's very yeah, it's very specific. Maybe I wouldn't want to call it maybe limiting, but it's true that there's some colors that I'm sensitive to color.
Uh-huh.
And I have this really intense relationship with the color pink.
So what would it be if you make work right now for yourself? Everything is pink. What if the walls in your space now for your Zoom space? You know how people do the Zoom background? You can have a kind of like different pink Zoom background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a pink Zoom background. I just thought those kind of bunny ears thingies, that's a bit too much. But I've had this weird thing with Zoom backgrounds because I really love them, but they don't work for me. My face becomes kind of half transparent and I can't seem to change it.
Yeah, I think
I tried in the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's something that is skin tone and how it's interesting when come back to the conversation earlier when we started is about light, right? And how the camera register light and skin tone, of course, is how it's the part of the reflection. And there are certain ways that the camouflage or that the blending in of the Zoom background and that the higher contrast that would register, and sometimes you're disappearing in the background and things. So I guess that's something that's I always find that I know that a lot of people are doing that with the Zoom background and stuff, but I still find it's like incredibly charming and wonderful. There's kind of this, it's back to our earlier conversation about the digital glitch, and this glitch is actually a moment that that reality is situated. It's kind of like crunch the virtual and remind us that we're made of cellular bits and bobs of different things, and that it's not seamless, right? Because there are all the kind of other media and the films world where we present it in certain ways that it feels so seamless, right? Everything should work, but we know that, or we all experience it, or I know I have, like the glitch today that I couldn't be on my computer with you.